Good afternoon, and welcome back to War and Peace, Read Aloud, Quarantine Story Time with me, Charlotte. Quick recap, this is our third reading. We're in Volume 1, Part 1, Subsection 4 today. What's happened so far? We've just met some of the characters, Prince Vasily, Anna Pavlovna, who's a socialite who's having a party. And let's say we've got Prince Andrei and his wife, who is pregnant. And we also have the gorgeous Princess Helene, who is Prince Vasily's daughter. Also Pierre, a bastard son of someone who is at this party and it's first time hanging out in public or at a formal function, and he's a bit of a bear of a man. What else? Oh, and there's still the thought in the background of hooking up Prince Vasily's son Anna Toly with one of the Bolkonskis, I think. We've also discovered that there's a lot of French in this Russian novel because it was quite normal. French was the language of diplomacy in the 17 and 1800s, especially in the Russian court, but across Europe and the globe, basically until I think World War I or World War II was pretty common for French to be the language of diplomacy. Which is probably why it's still I'm sure it's one of the reasons that it is one of the official languages of the UN. Fun fact. So basically I've been reading a section, or as long as I can hold up this book, which I will probably weigh today so I can let you know tomorrow how much I'm holding up here, because it's not small. So let's just dive right into it, see what else Tolstoy has in store for us. I'm pretty sure that he has another trick up his sleeve in addition to the French. So my apologies to any other nationalities that I offend in this reading. Alrighty, let's begin. Anna Pavlovna smiled and promised to occupy herself with Pierre, who she knew was related to Prince Vasily through his father. The elderly lady, who had so far been sitting with ma tante, hastily got up and overtook Prince Vasily in the front hall. All the former sham interest disappeared from her face. Her kind, weepy face expressed only anxiety and fear. "What can you tell me, Prince, about my Boris?" she said, overtaking him in the front hall. She pronounced the name Boris with a special emphasis on the O. "I cannot remain in Petersburg any longer. Tell me, what news can I bring my poor boy?" Though Prince Vasily listened to the elderly lady reluctantly and almost impolitely, and even showed impatience, she smiled at him gently and touchingly, and even took him by the arm to keep him from walking away. "It won't cost you anything to say a word to the sovereign, and he'll be transferred straight away to the guards," she pleaded. "Believe me, Princess, I'll do all I can," replied Prince Vasily. "But it's hard for me to ask the sovereign. I'd advise you to return to Rumyantsev through Prince Golitsyn. That would be smarter." The elderly lady bore the name of Princess Drubetskoy, one of the best families of Russia, but she was poor, had long since left society, and had lost her former connections. She had come now to solicit an appointment to the guards for her only son. She had invited herself and come to Anna Pavlovna's soirée for her only in order to see Prince Vasily. Only for that had she listened to the Vacances story. Prince Vasily's words frightened her. Her once beautiful face showed spite. But that lasted no more than a moment. She smiled again and took a slightly stronger grip on Prince Vasily's arm. "Listen, Prince," she said, "I've never asked you for anything, and never will. I've never reminded you of my father's friendship for you, but now I adjure you in God's name, do this for my son, and I will consider you my benefactor, she added hastily. No, don't be angry, but promise me. I asked Galitzin, and he refused. Soyez le bon enfant que vous avez été, she said, trying to smile, though there were tears in her eyes. Papa will be late, said Princess Helene, who was waiting at the door, turning her beautiful head on her classical shoulders. But influence in society is a capital that must be used sparingly lest it disappear. Prince Vasily knew that, and having once realized that if he were to solicit for everyone who solicited from him, it would soon become impossible for him to solicit for himself. He rarely used his influence. In Princess Dupretskoy's case, however, after her new appeal, he felt something like a pang of conscience. She had reminded him of the truth. He owed his first steps in the service to her father. Besides, he could see from the way she behaved that she was one of those women, especially mothers, who once they take something into their heads will not leave off until their desire is fulfilled, and are otherwise prepared to pester you every day and every minute, and even to make scenes. This last consideration gave him pause. Chérie Anna Mikhailovna, he said with a tone of familiarity and boredom, it is almost impossible for me to do what you want, but to prove to you how much I love you and honor the memory of your late father, I will do the impossible. Your son will be transferred to the Guards. Here is my hand on it. Are you satisfied? My dear, you are our benefactor. I expect nothing else from you. I know how kind you are. He was about to leave. Wait, 2 more words. Une fois passé aux Gardes, she faltered. You're on good terms with Mikhail Ilaronovich Kutuzov. Recommend Boris as his adjunct, then I'll be at peace, and Vasily smiled. That I will not promise you. You know how besieged Kutuzov has been since he was appointed commander-in-chief. He told me himself that all the Moscow ladies are conspiring to send their children to be his adjuncts. No, you must promise. I won't let you go, my dear benefactor. Papa, the beauty replied in the same tone, will be late. Well, au revoir, goodbye, see you. So you'll speak to the sovereign tomorrow? Without fail, but to Kutuzov, I don't promise. No, do promise, do please promise, Basil. Anna Mikhailovna said behind him, with the smile of a young coquette, which must have suited her very well once, but now did not go with her emaciated face. She evidently forgot her age and employed out of habit all her old feminine resources, but as soon as he left, her face again acquired the same cold, sham expression it had had before. She went back to the circle where the Vicomte was going on with his story and again pretended to listen, waiting for the moment to leave since her business was done. But how do you find all this latest comedy, du Sacre de Milan? Asked Anna Pavlovna. Et la nouvelle comédie du plus de jeunes et de luxe, que viement présenter les vues à Monsieur Bonaparte. Monsieur Bonaparte, assis sur un trône, et escompte les voyous des nations adorables. Non, mais c'est un devenir folle. On dirait que le monde entier a perdu la tête. Prince Andrei grinned, looking straight into Anna Pavlovna's face. Dieu me le donne, gars à quelle touche, he said, Bonaparte's words spoken as the crown was placed on him. On dit qu'elle est très beau en prononçant ces paroles, he added, and repeated the words once more in Italian. Dio me la donna, gara a chi la tocca. Toccia. J'espère enfin, Anna Pavlovna continued, que ça a été la goutte d'eau que fera déborder le verre. Les souverains ne pouvant plus supporter cet homme que menaces-tu? Les souverains? Je ne parlais pas de la Russie, the Vicomte said courteously and hopelessly. Les souverains, madame? Quand il fait pour lui the 16th, pour la reine, pour Madame Elizabeth, rien. he continued, growing animated. Écrasez-moi, il subissait. Le punissons pour la trahison de la cause des Bourbons. Les souverains, ils envoyant des ambassadeurs complémentaires les subterres. And with a contemptuous sigh, he again changed position. At these words, Prince Hippolyte, who had long been gazing at the Vicomte through his lorgnette, suddenly turned his whole body to the little princess and asked her for a needle, began showing her the coat of arms of the Condes, drawing with the needle on the table. He explained that the coat of arms to her with a significant air, as if the princess had asked him about it. Bâton de guise, engueulet de guise des yeux, maison Condé, he said. The princess listened, smiling. If Bonaparte remains on the throne of France for another year, the Vicomte continued the new conversation with the air of a man who does not listen to others, but in matters known better to him than to anyone else, follows only the train of his own thoughts. Things will go too far. Intrigues, coercion, banishments, executions will forever destroy French society. I mean good society. And then he shrugged his shoulders and spread out his arms. Pierre was about to say something. The conversation interested him, but Anna Pavlovna, who was keeping watch on him, interrupted. The Emperor Alexander, she said with the sadness that always accompanied her talk about the imperial family, declared that he would leave it to the French themselves to choose their form of government. And I think there's no doubt that the whole nation, freed of the usurper, will throw itself into the arms of the lawful king, Anna Pavlovna said, trying to be amiable to the émigré and royalist. That's doubtful, said Prince André. Monsieur le Vicomte quite rightly supposes that things have already gone too far. I think it will be hard to return to the old ways. From what I've heard, Pierre, blushing again, mixed into the conversation, almost all the nobility have already gone over to Bonaparte's side. It's the Bonapartists who say that, said the Vicomte, not looking at Pierre. Right now, it's hard to know public opinion in France. Bonaparte l'a dit, Prince André said with a grin. It was evident that he did not like the Vicomte, and that, though he was not looking at him, his talk was directed at him. Je lui ai montré le chemin de la gloire, he said after a short silence, again repeating the words of Napoleon. Ils n'en ont pas voulu. Je leur ai ouvert mes antechambres. Ils sont précipités et fous. Je ne sais pas à quel point il a eu le droit de le dire. Oh, comment? The Vicomte retorted. After the Duke's murder, even the most partial people ceased to see a hero in him. C'est même ça est un héros pour certains gens, the Vicomte said, turning to Anna Pavlovna. Depuis l'assistant du Duc, il est un martyr de plus dans le ciel, un héros de moins sur la terre. Before Anna Pavlovna and the others had time to smile appreciatively at the words of the Vicomte, Pierre again burst into the conversation, and Anna Pavlovna, though she anticipated that he would say something improper, could no longer stop him. The execution of the Duc de Achine, said Pierre, was a necessity of state, and I precisely see greatness of soul in the fact that Napoleon was not afraid to take upon himself alone the responsibility for this act. Dieu, mon Dieu, Anna Pavlovna whispered in a frightened whisper. Comment, Monsieur Pierre, vous trouvez que l'assistant est grand de rame? Said the little princess, smiling and drawing her work towards her. Ah, oh, said various voices. Capital, Prince Hippolyte said in English, began slapping his knee with his palm. The Vicomte merely shrugged. Pierre gazed triumphantly at his listeners over his spectacles. I say that, he went on desperately, because the Bourbons fled from the revolution, abandoning the people to anarchy, and Napoleon alone was able to understand the revolution, to defeat it, and therefore, for the sake of the common good, he could not stop short at the life of a single man. Wouldn't you like to move to that table? Said Anna Pavlovna, but Pierre, not answering, went on with his speech. No, he said, growing more and more inspired. Napoleon is great because he stood above the revolution, put an end to its abuses, and kept all that was good, the equality of citizens and freedom of speech and of the press, and that is the only reason why he gained power. Yes, if he had taken power and, without using it for murder, given it to the lawful king, said the Vicomte, then I would call him a great man. He couldn't do that. The people gave him power only so that he could deliver them from the Bourbons, and because the people saw a great man in him. The revolution was a great thing, Monsieur Pierre went on, showing by this desperate and provocative parenthetical phrase his great youth and desire to speak everything out all the sooner. Revolution and regicide, a great thing, and after that, wouldn't you like to move to that table? Anna Pavlovna repeated. Contrainte sociale, the Vicomte said with a meek smile. I'm not talking about regicide. I'm talking about ideas. Yes, the ideas of pillage, murder, and regicide, an ironic voice interrupted again. Those were extremes, to be sure, but the whole meaning wasn't in them. The meaning was in the rights of man, emancipation from prejudice, the equality of citizens, and Napoleon kept all these ideas in all their force. Liberty and equality, the Vicomte said scornfully, as if finally deciding to prove seriously to this young man all the stupidity of his talk. These are resounding words that have long been compromised. Who doesn't love liberty and equality? Our Savior already preached liberty and equality. Did people become happier after the revolution? On the contrary, we wanted liberty, but Bonaparte destroyed it. Prince Andrei kept glancing with a smile now at Pierre, now at the Vicomte, and now at the hostess. For the first moment of Pierre's outburst, Anna Pavlovna was horrified, accustomed though she was to society. But when she saw that, despite the blasphemous speeches uttered by Pierre, the Vicomte did not lose his temper, and when she became certain that it was now impossible to suppress these speeches, she gathered her forces and, joining the Vicomte, attacked the orator. Mais, mon cher Monsieur Pierre, said Anna Pavlovna, how do you explain a great man who can execute a duke, or finally any simple man, without trial and without guilt? I'd like to ask, said the Vicomte, how Monsieur explains the 18th Brumaire. Was that not a deception? C'est un escamotage qui ne ressemble nullement à la manger des aiguilles d'un grand homme. Grand homme. And the prisoners he killed in Africa, said the little princess. It's terrible. She shrugged her shoulders. C'est un voiture, vous avez bu dire, said Prince Hippolyte. Monsieur Pierre did not know whom to answer, looking around at them all, and smiled. His smile was not like that of other people, blending into a non-smile. With him, on the contrary, when a smile came, his serious and even somewhat sullen face vanished suddenly, instantly, and another appeared, childish, kind, even slightly stupid, and as if apologetic. To the Vicomte, who was meeting him for the first time, it was clear that this Jacobin was not at all as frightening as his words. Everyone fell silent. Do you want him to answer everybody at once? Asked Prince Andrei. Besides, in the acts of a statesman, one must distinguish among the acts of the private person, the military leader, and the emperor. So it seems to me. Yes, yes, of course, Pierre picked up, gladdened by the arrival of unexpected help. It's impossible not to admit, Prince Andrei went on, that Napoleon was a great man on the bridge of Arcole and in the Jaffa hospital when he shook hands with the plague victims. But there are other acts which are hard to justify. Prince Andrei, who had evidently wanted to soften the awkwardness of Pierre's speech, got up, intending to leave, and making a sign to his wife. Suddenly, Prince Hippolyte rose, and gesturing for everyone to stay and sit down, began to speak. Ah, je dirais en m'en raconte une anecdote moscovite charmante. Il fait que je vous en régale. Vous m'excusez, Vicomte, il fait que je raconte en russe. Autrement, on ne s'étendira pas le sel de l'histoire. And Prince Hippolyte began to speak in Russian, with a pronunciation such as Frenchmen have after spending a year in Russia. Everyone stayed, so animatedly, so insistently did Prince Hippolyte call for the attention to his story. In Moscow there is a lady, une dame, and she is very stingy. She must have two valets de pied behind the carriage, and a very great height. That was her taste. Now she had une femme de chambre, also of grand height. She said, here Prince Hippolyte fell to thinking, evidently having a hard time working it out. She said, Yes, she said, "Girl," to the femme de chambre, "put on the livrée and come with me behind the carriage, faire visites." Here Prince Hippolyte snorted and guffawed far in advance of his listeners, which produced an impression unfavorable to the narrator. Many smiled, however, the elderly lady and Anna Pavlovna among them. So she went. Suddenly there was a strong wind. The girl lost her hat, and her long hairs came undone. Here he could no longer control himself and began laughing fitfully, saying through his laughter, "And the whole world found out." With that the anecdote ended, though it was not clear why he had told it and why it absolutely had to be told in Russian. All the same, Anna Pavlovna and the others appreciated Prince Hippolyte's social grace in thus pleasantly putting on end to Monsieur Pierre's unpleasant and ungracious outburst. After the anecdote, the conversation broke up into small, insignificant commentaries on past and future balls, on performances, and on who one would see whom, when, and where. Well, I think that's as good of a place to stop as any. And we will see who, when, and where tomorrow. Thank you again for suffering through with me in Tolstoy's multilingual challenge. Even some Italian, which that was pretty sad. But I don't profess to speak Italian, though I should. Again, tune in with me tomorrow for more War and Peace. And around between 3 and 4 is when I'll usually do it. Let me know if you have any questions. Drop comments in the video below. I'll keep it up on my channel. Not that anyone needs it, but stay safe, everyone, and hope you're having a safe and healthy quarantine. Bye!